All right, guys, welcome back to another edition of Texans Unfiltered, a Houston football podcast for your Houston Texans. I am youngarigold, and I am joined by my friend and co-host John Wade, the Garnet Texan. And John, what is going on? Where are you recording? Are you okay? Blink twice if you need to be rescued.
No, I'm good. I got told that I was going to Dallas on Friday for work. It was something that we had kind of talked about, and approval just didn't go in until like the last second, I guess. I don't know. Big companies. I have a new boss, so I'm sure he's just trying to do everything right and just learning how it works. And I was like, am I going? Am I not going? And then find out on Friday I was going. And then I had the boys all weekend, and so trying to wrangle them and take care of them, and then get ready to leave all at the same time. My head kind of gets everywhere. But I did watch the game. Did get nice and stressed out. What I say about Green, I don't think he's going to be a Texan much longer.
Yeah, no, yeah. So I watched the game as well. Obviously, I had a wonderful weekend too. I'm glad we were able to record on a Tuesday because we don't ever get to really do that, so it's great. Yeah, I mean the game is the game. I am at a point of frustration now where it's really hard for me to come back from. Like I've been with this mindset of like 4-2, 5-2, 6-2. Like, hey, you're winning. But there are issues within this team that that haven't been corrected and don't look to be corrected in the future because they're consistent issues that are happening week in, week out. So for everybody, it's like, oh, you're winning. I agree. And I was on that same bandwagon for an extremely long time. But when the same ugly things continue to happen and there are no corrections, there's an issue. And there are things that have to happen because if they don't, it doesn't matter what happens. And like if you're in January, if you're not correcting issues, this is an opportunity to kind of take that next step. And I feel like every time they have that opportunity this year to take that next step, they fumble.
Yep.
And that's the part that's the most frustrating for me. So I mean, we can hop into it. Look, I think it's interesting. We're starting. I guess we'll probably start here. I mean, the offensive line is obviously an issue, but it's very much on the left side, and we've seen that with Kendrick Green. I mean, the guy just this last week, I don't know what happened where it was just like, I mean, that wasn't even the best interior pass rush that we faced this year, and all of a sudden it was like he couldn't block a thing.
Well, there's some theories out there that so part of the reason why the offensive line did better last year is that group was just better at communicating. There's a reason why offensive lines can play down with talent, with good coaching. They get in sync. They learn how to communicate. They learn how to pass off. And it's also very, 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 very telling that they could never pick up a stunt to save their life on the left side.
Yeah.
So one bad player on the offensive line can drag the entire unit down. And I think part of us, we'd gotten, maybe Tunsil still deserves some blame, but for a lot of us, we felt like Tunsil was the bigger problem because, again, offensive line always performs better when he was out versus when he's been in. But I think this past week, part of the reason why the interior just collapsed the way it did is I think the guys were just like, you know what, we're going to do our own thing. And if Green can't keep up, we're not trying to help him anymore. And that's why the interior just flat out caved. And why he eventually got benched. And it's pretty telling that as soon as he gets benched, we have our best drive of the game. Still our best drive of the game. As soon as he got benched.
Yep.
And the entire offensive line just played better. So I don't know who said it first. I don't know if I saw it passing in Twitter, but they're just like, you know what? They get the guy out, they can't communicate, and all the other guys all of a sudden are able to get back in sync. Because, again, an offensive line, they have to work as a unit. It doesn't matter how good the best player is. They are only as good as their worst player. And, I mean, Green's pretty bad. Green is pretty bad.
Yeah, it's interesting. I saw these little murmurs and things on Twitter that I thought was super interesting, where they said, like, who is responsible for what's happening with Kenyon Green? Like, why is he still in the lineup? And everybody was saying, or not everybody, but a couple people, and I thought this was an interesting take. Kenyon Green is in the lineup as the starting left guard because he is the only blemish on Nick Casario's drafting resume. And so it is coming from above D'Amico that Nick is forcing Kenyon Green to start in hopes that he could turn it around. And they were saying that, like, if you go back to the offseason, Nick Casario was hyping up Kenyon Green, saying this was his first offseason where he's actually healthy and he's been through a lot and he's looking to actually correct things, and that he has, like, there were things that were being said in the offseason. I don't really care who's at fault. I don't think Nick is the type to. I don't think D'Amico is the type to allow Nick to dictate, and I also don't think Nick is going to dictate. But it's a fan theory, which in reality is kind of funny, because when you think about it, it's true. From a draft perspective, Kenyon Green is the only real blemish on Nick Casario's resume. I mean, everybody else has been developing and looks good, right? I mean, Will Anderson, obviously, CJ Stroud, Tank Dell. Like, there are so many things, but either way, it doesn't matter. It's time for Kenyon Green to go and Kendrick Green to enter, or Jarrett Patterson to enter, or anybody on the waiver wire to enter at left guard. At this point, like, you have to. And you're right. Like, I still think Laramie has a lot of responsibility in some of this. I really do. Like, he isn't a coach. He isn't. So I get it, but, like, he should be helping. He should be grooming. He should be help developing Kenyon Green. I don't know if he has. I doubt he has. He doesn't seem like that kind of guy. But Kenyon Green is donezo, I would assume, moving forward.
I mean, you would think. I don't think that Casario was taking the call out of the coach's hands, but I do think that there is something to, you play the guys that you've invested in. And with Green, him missing that entire season, and I mean, physically, he looks like he should be great. Like, when you look at how, like, his numbers, like, he looks like he should be an absolute beast.
Yeah,
it's just got to click. And I mean, maybe that was the push. They're like, this has got to click for him, because nobody physically compares to him. Like, he should be good just being out there. One of the guys on Twitter, and I really wish I remembered his name, said that because of his physical skills, just how he presents physically, he almost has to be actively trying to be bad. He could just go through the motions and he should be passable. And the fact that he is doing this bad is very, very concerning. And yeah, I mean, again, I think the offensive line maybe was trying to pull him up throughout the season. And I honestly think that this game, they just, as a unit, just kind of gave up on him.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think overall they were just kind of like, all right, this is it. Like, we've done enough. We've gotten to a point to where we've tried. We've given you the snaps. We've given you, like, everything has kind of been here. You could have either taken the starting job at left guard, or you could do what you did. And I mean, it's fair. You kind of have to let them. Eventually, you have to let the kids learn how to swim on their own eventually. But at what cost, right? Like, and I think ultimately for me, that's the concern. Is, like, when I saw CJ, the way that CJ got tackled this game was a big difference than how I felt in the past. There was a lot of big rack ups. There was 2 significantly big hits. And it's like, okay, man, like, enough is enough. Because, like, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, the season's over. CJ Stroud is hurt.
Oh, but it is. I mean, let's be honest. Like, it really is. I mean,
I'm still a Davis Mills guy. So I think a redemption tour is, but either way, I get what you're saying. Like, either way, the team isn't going to be great. But if you look at what this team does do really, really well, they run the ball really well.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in January and February, the recipe for success in the in the postseason is run game, defense. And then if you have that quarterback, that's what puts you over the top, right? And this team has the elements that are needed for you to be that postseason
Mhm.
team. So I just they have to figure out a way to ensure that CJ does not get hurt, and I think that's what has to happen moving forward.
Right.
Nothing else should matter
Well,
moving forward.
what was very concerning for this game, and I mean, I've seen glimpses of it, but there was times in this game where CJ just looked straight rattled, like he had just been beat to shit. There was a couple of passes that he usually makes that are pretty easy for him. There was a couple times where he seemed to kind of rush through his reads a little bit more, and to me, I was like, "Oh no, we're going to David Carr this guy," because I mean, the offensive line has struggled all season, but just this game against a pass rush that was not even the best that we've played all year, it was just a breaking point for him. This was one of the worst offensive line performances I have ever seen. And you can't blame it all entirely on Green. But if you do follow like PFF and all that, I think he had the lowest score by 20 points. He was the worst ranked offensive lineman for the weekend. Both Tunsil and Howard were in the 70s, and they were two of our highest graded players.
Yeah.
As I mean, it's just one of those that I honestly think that they just kind of gave up. Because also, when sometimes when players they were talking about how Jared Johnson got in Green's face and was yelling at him that you have got to protect our quarterback.
Yep.
They were talking about that. Somebody made the comment that no of the other offensive linemen were sitting near him.
It was John.
So that's absolutely wild.
I'll say this though. The other part about the offensive line that is like, here's what my concern is. I do think that like the overall the line should perform better once Kenyon Green is gone, but there are still aspects of this offensive line that are extremely concerning for me.
Mhm.
Titus Howard is now going to be a focal point moving forward, right? Take out Kenyon Green as a problem. Now insert Titus Howard as a potential problem. I think one thing that John Crumpler pointed out, which I thought was a really good call out, is when CJ when that fumble happened and CJ was the only one running at, like he was like the one closest and he fell down, like that offensive line does not seem to like want to pick up or help or be there. Like they have no dog at all in them whatsoever. They're just a bunch of finesse guys. That's very concerning because you're going to play teams like Baltimore, Kansas City, Buffalo. All three of those teams can be extremely physical in nature, like all around the entire mindset of the team. And that's what D'Amico wants. D'Amico wants to be a physical team. I don't know if that offensive line is ever going to be able to be what you want it to be able to go where we need to go.
Well, they need a player to be the heart of that offensive line, just to have that attitude. And I mean, they just currently don't have it.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, they just currently do not have it. So hopefully, I mean, sometimes it's one of these undrafted guys that just has to come in and play with an absolute fire, just absolutely lit under them.
Yeah.
It's amazing how often you find offensive linemen where you shouldn't. And I mean, as Texans fans, we know what our record is with drafting guards. When was the last time we've actually hit on a draft pick for a guard? Brandon Brooks?
Yeah, that was that was like a fifth round pick, Brandon Brooks.
I mean, we've put up with some bad guard play. What was his name that forever we kept hoping he would turn out okay? Shoot. I can't think of his name.
I don't know.
But it was the continued Rick Smith curse, and I mean, it looks like Casario inherited that as well. Like we can't draft a guard to save our life.
No, we can't.
It is what it is. But let's talk about some happy thoughts for a minute. Joe,
real quick, before we get to Joe Mixon, I agree. The last thing,
okay,
just because I'm starting to see it from other people, which is great. Not great, but it's great to see it. CJ definitely is not as comfortable as he was last year. CJ, even when he has time, is struggling at times to make the throws that he was making last year. I said that 5 weeks ago, and everybody was upset that like we can't. But and I come from a good place. I think the expectation for CJ should be that he's going to struggle at times. That last year was an anomaly, not in the sense of like he can't be great, but in the sense of how great he was as a rookie. He's going to take a step back a couple times and then take steps forward. It's all part of the developmental process for what a young quarterback should go through. We need to be like fair with the criticism and ensure that CJ gets some too. And I think CJ would absolutely take some of it.
Yeah.
There were some open wide receivers on certain plays that he missed. The chemistry is lacking between him and Tank Dell. It seems it picked up at the end. With Stephon Diggs likely out with a torn ACL, Nico out for the next, I think, 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to need to see Mechie, Hutch, and Tank Dell and Dalton Schultz all get to where they need to be. CJ's going to have to pick it up and lead that team and lead that wide receiving room to be able to help develop them and put them into place. And we need to see that elite ball placement and that elite ability to predict and throw with anticipation in a way that I don't think we've seen this year the way that we saw it last year. And that's what made him so good was him throwing with anticipation. He always knew where his wide receivers were going to be. So I get it. The offensive line doesn't help that, right? So there are elements, right? For any recipe to work, everything has to be right. And you have to measure it properly. CJ, I think, has had some struggles this year that are out of his control, but I do think there are some that he has had that are in his control that he has struggled with.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a sophomore slump for him. I would definitely agree with that. When you look at everything, like the efficiency ratings, his QBR, his QB rating, last year he was consistently like top 8. This year he's top 12. There was times where I think he looked straight rattled this past game. He's definitely there's been times throughout the season where it's like, he's playing like he's in a little bit of a funk.
Yeah.
And not with the same confidence that he had. Whereas I think last year, I think it kind of just snowballs a little bit. First off, I mean, the offensive line has not done him any help. Second off, our receivers, there's been times where they should be able to get separation and they haven't. Then our tight ends had a very bad case of the drops. One of the call-outs here in the Colts is the Texans receivers have already exceeded the amount of drops they had last year, which may actually go back to CJ because he throws such an easy ball 90% of the time, whereas right now with everything going on, I mean, maybe that ball placement and that easy to catch ball just isn't the same this year. But regardless, like these are all the factors that are going into it. And still, top 12, sophomore slump. Like I have no doubt that he's going to get through it because there's also times where he's still reached into the bag. Like he's still done what he needs to do. I think everything just still hasn't clicked. And not to get too overly concerned. That's not like anything he did last year was fluky. Like he's just
I think fluky's
not. Yeah, he's just not playing as sharp. He's playing better teams this year. And our offensive line has performed light years worse. Like it's not just a little bit worse than last year. It is a whole lot worse than last year. So I'm not concerned with CJ. Like he's still going to get better. I mean, what did he end up with? He ended up with 285 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 sacks after the Green Bay game where he got absolutely destroyed. So I will definitely take that this week, but I do think it's starting to get into his head.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I think he's used to playing at a very high level. Mm-hmm. And this is one of those things like you came from Ohio State where you had there is just a ton of success that he's had. It's not the Deshaun effect to the extent of like we were really concerned with Deshaun because he hasn't lost since high school. All those stupid ass storylines that we heard. When he started losing, it was like we were concerned. But I think with us, it's more or less like him handling it and handling everything else that's happening. I mean, he hasn't lost, but it's just more or less like the things and the battles that he's got to go through and the objections and obstacles that are in his way. It's going to take time for him to be able to just learn these things. He's talked about it openly about how defenses are looking and how he's seeing a couple things that he hasn't seen in a while or he hasn't seen since high school or whatever it may be, which is it comes with being a second-year quarterback.
Right.
The expectation is that you're going to develop and learn these things. And I still have no concern whatsoever. He's a franchise quarterback. I believe he's a top 5 quarterback. I believe he has every single thing that we need for him to be successful. He's just got to take on part of that development and part of being able to continue to add to his toolkit and just become a better quarterback.
I mean, the difference between him and Deshaun, when Deshaun would struggle, it's because people knew how to attack him. You know, they would get him with the same play over and over and over again. Or with CJ, what it takes to confuse him is actually quite a bit, like the way they're disguising their defenses.
Right.
And again, part of it is he's just a little bit off of his passes, things that are going to revert back to the norm because throughout his career, he's never been consistently off. Right now, I think he's just a little bit rattled. He's just a little bit behind. And that's probably because I think he's hurt a little bit. I think he's beat up.
Yeah.
Some of those hits are no joke. There was the one hit by what's his name, the 49er, where I was just like, I was afraid he was going to get up for a while. Like I thought that Mills was going to come in for a couple plays.
Yeah. No.
Yep. You know which one I'm talking about?
Yep. 100%.
So yeah, I mean, with CJ, again, they fixed the interior offensive line just by not having Kenyon Green play. Get somebody else in there. I don't care who they get in there. Just get somebody else in there. And I think that honestly, that will start to kind of work itself out. I think Nico Mack will help work it out. And once him and Tank Dell, I mean, the good thing about next week him and Tank Dell will have to get in sync. Or I mean, not next week. It's going to be Thursday. So coming up quick.
Yeah, Thursday night is, I mean, it's right there. I don't know if there's a delay on your end or not, but yeah, I mean, Thursday night, and let's get to Joe Mixon, I guess, before we get to Thursday night, because this Thursday night game against the Jets, I don't know. For some reason, I don't feel really good about it. We talked about it 2-3 weeks ago about this kind of being one of those games where it was like, I actually think Vegas has it like we're like 1-point favorites or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I mean, we're favored to win. The Jets are a dumpster fire.
I just don't like that.
To me, that's kind of scary. Like,
but I wonder, is it scary for us, John, because we're so used to in the past when we have success, and that these are the types of games in the past where they just come and shit the bed.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Right now, at least the Texans, like, I don't think they feel good about winning the way they've been winning as a team. So I think they are a little bit more focused. Now, is that a guarantee of anything? No, but going into MetLife, which has scared me, and I've talked about it all season, this stadium, going to it on a Thursday night on short rest after our quarterback getting straight up abused 2 weeks in a row. This is where he got a concussion last year. It terrifies me. Absolutely terrifies me. Now, I don't think this is because we have that habit of whenever we start to get riding high and things are getting good. No, I think that the Jets do have a pretty good defense. They have a better defensive line than what we just saw from the Colts. Now, they're a dumpster fire, but that's also the teams that are a little bit dangerous to play because some of those guys are going to be looking for sets. They don't care. They're not going to care about stopping the play. They want to get their sacks.
Yeah.
They definitely have some dysfunction there, like with the drama with Aaron Rodgers and everything, just kind of messing everything up. But, you know, they do have the potential to go out there and actually and play pretty well. Like, I mean, they just got Devontae Adams. Who knows of him because we always seem to be that team where the opposing team gets that little bit of magic that they've been missing. You know, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams are going to probably have that connection that they just haven't had in 5 years now, and because that shit always happens to us. The turf, even if CJ doesn't get hurt, I think that it's gonna, you know, he's going to play slow, I think, because again he's beat up. So yeah, it terrifies me. But the thing that we do have going for us is I do honestly think I did not realize how good Joe MIxon really is.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And if I have faith in us winning, it's because of MIxon.
I would say that when I look at this Jets team, I think they match on paper really, really well against this team. Um, Leonard Williams scares the shit out of me if Kenyon Green is there. Or not Leonard Williams. Sorry, that was 5 years ago. The Jets. Quinnen Williams, right? Yeah. Quinnen Williams. He scares me. I think it's Sauce Gardner's having a down year. I've always believed. I've said it from the beginning. I think Stingley is a better cornerback. This will be an interesting watch from that perspective. It's not like we have a true one that he's going to be defending. So we'll see how that goes. Aaron Rodgers always seems to play us extremely well whenever we have played Aaron Rodgers. They do have Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, like they have Breece Hall. They have weapons on offense. It's going to be an interesting matchup. If I had to bet on the Texans losing, I probably would, because it's just what we've seen in the past. It's right. Like one of those things that like I've been cheated on before. I don't believe that I'm not going to be cheated on again until I see that you don't cheat on me. This is very similar. Like I can't see this. I don't know, and especially after the way we've just played the Colts. I mean, the Colts were not good. Anthony Richardson was not good.
He looked awful.
Well, I don't know about
he had
9 drops, but I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, no. He looked awful.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes, like we were just kind of talking about it, drops are a factor of the quarterback. But Richardson, I mean, other than every now and then he'll have that absolutely amazing play, but just completely inconsistent. Like if he was able to connect some of those more basic, I mean, honestly though, his inaccuracy did save him from 1 pick six. Like if he had thrown that ball on target, why am I blanking on his name? The rookie would have had it.
Kellen Bullock.
Yeah, he would have had a pick six. So it was just out of his hands because the ball was placed off target because he had jumped the route. And I mean, give it up to Petrie. He almost had one as well. Like it was a great showing on their behalf. But yeah, Richardson did not look good. The Jets have lost 5 straight. Their offense again is a hot mess. I mean, they do have the chance to kind of turn it around because I do like Garrett Wilson as a player. So between him, Devontae Adams, and Aaron Rodgers, he just scares me. Like,
yeah, I mean, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the league.
Yeah, like he's gonna magically find that magic again for just one game this season. It's probably going to be against us. It's a primetime game, so he'll want to look good on camera. And that, I mean, the strength of the Jets is they are able to pressure the quarterback, and we don't have an answer for that right now. Now, if they figure out the offensive line, Big Sarge was floating something on Twitter saying that y'all were asking for change, and we're apparently going to get it, is the rumor. So we'll see what change he's talking about. Hopefully it has something to do with the offensive line because that's what everybody's been asking for.
Yeah, we'll see. Sarge is really good at putting out tweets to garner engagement. So just because it's a change doesn't mean it's a change that we're all thinking it will be.
Yeah. I mean, and you've also got to take a look into the factor that the Jets need to win this. We don't.
Say that again?
The Jets absolutely need to win this game. We do not. For us, it's not a must-win. Us beating the Colts this past week, that was our must-win. Now that we have that little bit of cushion in the AFC South, I mean, it'd be nice to win. Like, I want to win. I'm sure if you ask any player or any coach, they'll say every week's a must win. But it's not the same sort of situation that the Jets are in. This game is more important for the Jets than it is for us.
Yeah, I would say, like, I agree with the sentiment and why you're saying that. I think for this, so from a record perspective in January and postseason, we don't have to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
I think for the fan base to truly feel confident about what this team can be, we need to see a true thrashing of the New York Jets on Thursday night. I do. I think from a fan base perspective, just looking at it from them, I think from a confidence and understanding that this team is going to correct and do what they need to do to get better as the season goes on. I do think the fan base needs to see that this team is ready to beat the bad teams in a way that a good team should beat a bad team, right? Like the way the Lions beat the shit out of the Titans, right? I'm not saying it needs to be that level, and but what I'm saying is in a convincing fashion, the Texans need to beat the Jets.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, would we feel 100 times better about the team if they do? Yes,
I would.
Yeah, we definitely would. Do I believe that they should? I do. I mean, the Jets are as bad, if not worse, than the Patriots.
Yeah.
However, the Patriots weren't able to have the interior rush like the Jets do, and that's why the Jets kind of scare me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still going to predict the Texans to win because we are a significantly better team than they are.
Yeah.
However, we don't have to, like, from a back of mind, like, you're a player, you're out there, and if things start going a little bit sideways, like, it's not that same must-win type thing. We've talked about it ad nauseum. The players all know they just have to make it to the playoffs. They don't have to. If you make it to the playoffs, anything can happen. Like 100%. If you get hot in the playoffs, like if things start to gel in the playoffs. Whereas the Jets right now, if they lose this game, their season may already be over, but it is definitively over if they lose to us.
Yeah,
they're not coming back from, what are they, 2-5?
I don't think they're coming back even if they beat us. To be clear, even if they win, this Jets team is done. It's over. They are going to have to figure out what it's going to look like post Aaron Rodgers, because you should not want him back next year. You should want to do a full fire sale and start over. But the Jets are the Jets, dude. We see this every 5 years with this team.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if we talk about a team or a franchise that a fan base should be extremely frustrated with, it should 100% be the Jets and the Giants. They go through the same cycle every 4 to 6 years. I mean, look at how many quarterbacks they've drafted in the top 10 over the last 15 years.
Yep.
I mean, you could name them just off the top of your head, and we're not even Jets fans.
Yeah.
Like, it's fucking embarrassing. It's so embarrassing. It really is. No, it truly is. Like, it is like one of those businesses that consistently fails, and then the community wants them to succeed, and so they go back and support, and it becomes this cycle. I don't understand how they can be so bad consistently unless it's just ownership. Like, that is the only way this fan base has to be so upset. I don't understand it. I know we all talk shit about the Browns, but the Jets have put themselves in position after position after position to be successful, and they fucking suck every time.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that the Jets have it worse than the Giants because the Giants have 2 Super Bowls in our lifetime.
100%.
I mean, I would die for one. So I can't talk shit about any team that's won a Super Bowl in this lifetime. But the Jets, yeah, I mean, they definitely have that meddling owner syndrome. They should be better. And you look at that team, they have bad luck. Like, they were in a position, it's like, oh, they have this fantastic defense. They have enough players on the offensive side of the ball that they should be able to put something together. All they needed a quarterback. And they go get Aaron Rodgers, and he looked like he had stuff left in the tank.
Yep.
And yeah, and then he tears his Achilles, and now this year he doesn't look the same. And part of that, I honestly think, is play calling. From what I've seen, I don't know. Like there's definitely times where we want to be very critical of ours, but then when you look at other teams around the league, you're just like, okay, we're just frustrated. I mean, ours isn't the best, but he's definitely not the worst. And right now with the Jets, yeah, that's got to be tough to be a fan of them because it's not just how they keep doing it; they keep also getting their hopes up and underperforming.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's again, we even when we look at our own team, right? When we think about like what we went through, it was basically 4 years of shit, right? But then, and like we're on a good path. Like it should be different, but at the end of the day, like that 4 years does not stack against what the Jets have been through in general. And to me, that's the part where it's just like, geez, dude. I mean, I just feel so bad for that team because like nobody deserves to go through that, right? Like
Yeah.
it's pretty bad. So
I
yeah,
mean, yeah, just quick rundown. Diggs, they still haven't said if it's an ACL or not, but it was non-contact. Why? That's weird because you usually can confirm your ACL within minutes after a game.
I wonder if they're trying to hide it as much as possible. Like I wonder if Diggs. I don't know. I don't. I mean, I don't want to go down. I don't want to put on a tinfoil hat. But with Diggs being a 1 year rental in the sense
Mhm.
of like not having another contract, his opportunity to grab another contract, maybe he's trying to figure out a way to manipulate what narrative can come out, not in a negative way. Manipulate seems to be a negative way to look at things, but just in a way where he can better position himself to have some form of a better contract next year in free agency or something that can benefit him. Because at his age, if he, you know, if he is hurt and he tore his ACL, like there's a high likelihood that it's not going to lead to a multi-year contract for him. And that was his last opportunity to do it.
I wonder if it's just like a severe sprain and they're hoping, or maybe it is even a tear and they're hoping that he doesn't have. Because sometimes you can tear it and it's a clean tear, and I guess you can play through it. That's what I've heard. I don't know how. I mean, I tore my ACL and I can barely walk, but
Yeah.
it is, everything's always different. And then it also looks like Damian Pierce, he hurt his groin. Did you know that?
No,
Yeah, apparently he didn't practice, so
I had no idea.
fun. Patterson also didn't practice, and of course, Jimmy Ward is still out. For the Jets, there'll be Mosley's out with a neck injury. Um, Alan Lazard is out with a chest injury. Tony Adams dealing with a hamstring injury. He's expected to play, but did not participate in practice. And Leaky Fotu, he's
Yep.
good, even though I'm not able to say his name correctly, I'm sure. And he's expected to be out. So, I mean, impact players on both sides, but I don't think either side is overly healthier or more injured than the other.
Yeah, I think this is the game that, if anything, like rest your guys. Like it's an 11, like 3 games in 11 days. Like rest them this week. You should be able to beat this team no matter what. Like if you have CJ and you have Tank and MIxon, you should be able to score. Your defense should be able to stop them. Like this is the week to rest guys, and this is kind of what I was talking about with like from the fan base and like a confidence perspective. Hurt players should not impact whether a win or loss happens this week. Like this team should be able to outcoach and outperform the New York Jets, and that's that.
Okay. Well, I've got exactly 1 minute because I got to get going before my ride leads me.
Yep. Here we go. All right, guys. Well, John, final prediction.
Final prediction. I still think our defense has just been playing at a level, and they keep increasing it week after week. And the Jets' offense just looks so bad. So I think relying on our defense and Joe Mixon, we're going to still pull it out. Fingers crossed.
No, I agree.
This is the most nervous I've been all week, or for any game so far. But yeah, I am nervous as hell, but I think we pull it off.
Yeah, I think they lose this game. I do. I'm
That's
sure
fair.
that this will get destroyed, but I just have a feeling we're going to lose this game. It just seems like one of those games so that we would lose. So is what it is. All right. Well, with that being said, make sure you guys like, subscribe, share, comment, all of that. Find us on YouTube, podcast platforms. Find us on Twitter and Instagram. I am youngarigold. That is John Wade signing off for Texans Unfiltered. We will catch you guys next week.